Welcome to Floyd Street's Finest. I am Jack Grossman. That is not Coach Mark Lieberman. That is instead John Fanta from Fox Sports FS1 and the more notable part of the Field 68, the DTF podcast. John, it is really, really, really exciting to have you on the podcast, man. You're going to be on the call of La Familia and the Ville in the TBT quarterfinals tonight. Really, really appreciate the time there out there already at world famous Freedom Hall here.
Jack, it's great to be with you. Yes, I am at Freedom Hall. It's been so cool. I feel like I'm in a time machine here. I know Bellarmine plays their home games here at Freedom Hall now, but to see this place packed and to see it juice tonight, over 12,000 tickets out. They think they're going to get around 15,000 people for the Ville and La Familia. This is the biggest night ahead in the basketball tournament's 11-year history. This is why you do this event, for cool, nostalgic moments like this. And I cannot wait to have the call for this game tonight. It has been so fun being in Louisville. I've been here once before, but to actually spend an extended amount of time and get to know some of the folks around here, get to know the fans, eat at some of the great restaurants. I love this area. I think that this area is about to have a resurrection of Louisville basketball, and this is the start of it here, the run the Ville's gone on.
So I got to ask you, what's been the food places you've checked out so far since you've been down there?
Well, I can't stop eating at Rivalry.
Incredible.
Yep. It really is great food, elite chicken parm, nice bottle glass of wine, however you like it, and the tiramisu is top notch. So that would be my number one pick. I've heard of a couple others that I got to get to. I've heard of this Wagner's.
Yeah, Wagner's very famous. Very famous, right by Churchill Downs.
That, but I just love everything about this area.
Yeah, if you need a chicken place, it's Asian Fusion. It's in Nulu, called Chicken and Me. One of the best chicken sandwiches I've ever had. Really good. Really, really good down there. But
I will mark that down.
Very, very underrated food town Louisville is, and I could talk food and all that all day, but we do have a basketball game tomorrow. As you said, 15,000 people expected it, as Scott Davenport would put it. Historic, world famous Freedom Hall, as he would like to say. And really, it's been, as you said, nostalgia. It's almost like going back to 2014, where, Russ Smith, Montrezl Harrell played against the Harrison Twins and Willie Cauley-Stein, among others, in this matchup in the Sweet 16 up at Indianapolis. It really does feel like you're going back to the golden age of the Louisville-Kentucky rivalry, when you had, guys fighting in a dialysis center, when they were playing in the Final Four and all that stuff. What has this meant, specifically on the Louisville side? Because it's been a very, very rough couple of years for Louisville, 3 years, really, going back to the last year, the Chris Mack, Mike Pegues era there, to be able to kind of catch on to that nostalgia, go back to Freedom Hall, a place where Louisville had so much success for 54 years, and be able to watch a team that's been able to actually, be, some living legends for the Cardinals from back in the day, and be able to win some games and make a run here in the TBT.
I think it's resurrected and reinvigorated people. I think it's really been a reinvigoration for Louisville basketball. It's been so cool to see Pat Kelsey and the current team, to see the likes of Chucky Hepburn and Javon Hadley, right? And Terrence Edwards get to experience what yesteryear looked like for this program. I think that's the beauty of TBT. The fans are excited about a new era, but so much excitement, Jack, at a certain point you get tired of it and you're like, I want to see something on the court. Well, I think that this has served for the community as a reminder of what happens when Louisville is good. Maybe the community didn't need the reminder. Maybe the outsiders like us and the media, and maybe other people that have ever covered this program, or even the casual fan, is going to be reminded that Louisville basketball is a massive brand. It's one of the biggest brands in college hoops, and this coaching job, which has been a carousel of disaster the last couple of years, that the future is bright, because Pat Kelsey, he's going to bring new energy in this area. But the energy's starting here. What's it been like? It's been a thrill. Russ Smith, Peyton Siva, Montrezl Harrell, these guys playing their tails off. Chinanu Onuaku's value has been so important to this Louisville team. I've just been amazed by the support. Chris Jones has showed up in a big way for this team. I think it's been exactly what TBT intends to be. It gives you a feeling of the past, reminds you of the players you fell in love with, and it forms new memories that you'll hold on to forever. So I think it's been awesome in every way. But my biggest thing, Jack, is if I'm a college program and I've got current players and I want to connect the current to the alumni in a world where the transfer portal creates so much roster movement, and there's a lot of people that then as a result, Jack, as a result, they don't know about the program they're playing for because all they're doing with that program is playing for a bag. Having these players of the past be able to connect with the guys currently and say, this is what we do. We are Louisville. This is how we do it. I think that's been very, very effective.
And I think it's also been a great reminder. And I think Mark Pope's introductory press conference at Kentucky was a great reminder of this also. Passionate fan bases, believe it or not, is not a bad thing in college basketball. I feel like, people got mad at the Louisville fans for being angry about the Kenny Payne situation. John Calipari, Kentucky, there were, many feuds. It felt like the last couple of years down the road in Lexington. And heck, you had even, this past year up in my alma mater, Indiana, you had Mike Woodson battling the fans at the end of what was a tough season up there, to where people kind of forget, like, hey, the fans caring is actually a good thing in college basketball. And yes, that puts you under more pressure and it gives you more pressure to win. I want to get to this a little bit later with Pat Kelsey as well, kind of understanding and relishing in that. But the fact that you can get 15,000 people showing up to watch a bunch of alums play basketball in July, that's not happening anywhere else. Duke, Carolina don't have TBT teams. I was up in Indianapolis for a wedding last weekend, so I went to the Assembly Ball Metamaki game, and it was fun. There were a couple thousand people there. There were, the people there that were into it, but it's nothing that's going to look like what it's going to be in Freedom Hall tonight with 15,000 plus on hand. It really shows how special, how unique the Louisville-Kentucky rivalry is and how much people care about basketball in that area.
Yeah, this is the battle of the Bluegrass. This is in a class of its own. It's two schools that are in the same Commonwealth that don't like each other one bit. They despise one another. The amount of BUK tweets that I have in my mentions, it's insane. It's insane. I think it's fitting that this game's at Freedom Hall tonight. I know that Kentucky has owned the rivalry recently, but Jack, here's the deal. The Louisville fans, they have shown in this event how much they embrace it, how much they love it. And for those who don't know, in the tournament, if you're wondering why this game's at Freedom Hall and not Rupp Arena, it's because the tiebreaker for these region winners was attendance. And Louisville fans showed out. They've had better attendance than Kentucky fans. What does that tell you about Louisville? What does that tell you about their fans? That even in the recent dark years, these people are still so attached to these players and still so attached to the great memories that they formed in a 2013 national championship. So Jack Grossman, this is outstanding. I think it's two schools that, this rivalry hasn't gotten the same national attention in recent years because of how bad Louisville's been. This is a reminder that Louisville, Kentucky is a top 3 rivalry in college basketball. And tonight, it gets the spotlight it deserves. We got 11 guys playing tonight who have spent time in the NBA. 11. This is going to be an all-time summer basketball event.
So you got Louisville, Kentucky. I assume Duke, Carolina's there. Who's the third one in your top 3?
Wow. Man, it's a great question. Cincinnati Xavier's right there,
intense,
man.
Very intense.
It's incredibly intense. I mean, it really is. It used to be like UConn, Syracuse, but I don't think so. Syracuse, Georgetown's gone downhill now. I think I think that there's a case for like a Kansas State.
That I think is the most underrated one in college hoops. The Kansas State. Yeah.
Very underrated. But I really do believe Cincinnati Xavier is top 3.
Yeah, I'll say Indiana Purdue is a lot of fun. Indiana Purdue's a lot of fun, but I mean, I've been there for Indiana Purdue games in Assembly Hall in Mackey. It doesn't compare to the Louisville, Kentucky. It doesn't. There's just not as much. And I know hatred isn't always a good thing, but there's not much pure hatred in the building when Indiana and Purdue play as there's the intensity of a Louisville, Kentucky game. It's truly unlike anything else.
And a Cincinnati Xavier is the same thing with a Louisville, Kentucky. It's different conferences. So you don't play twice or 3 times a year. Indiana and Purdue could play 3 times in a season, counting the Big Ten tournament.
Same with Duke and
this
Carolina.
Is one game. Yeah, one game, and maybe in the NCAA tournament. Yeah, Duke Carolina is a conference game.
Yep. So let me ask you this. We have, and again, John Fanta joining us. He'll be on the call with David Patrick, Callie Griffin tonight, FS1, 9 o'clock at historic Freedom Hall. We have 2 teams here in La Familia and the Ville. A little bit different. I mean, Louisville, a little bit more traditional big man. Montrezl Harrell's been spectacular in 2 of the 3 games. Struggled a little bit against team side like Kansas. Shout out Walker. You talked about how important he was, and he has really been a huge difference maker, especially on the glass, trying to establish defensive intensity. But Kentucky, they had some guys that can step out and shoot a little bit in the front court. Kareem Cantor's been really good. Nate Cecina comes off the bench and can hit some threes. Even Wally Cauley-Stein, I've seen, has hit a couple jump shots. I think Louisville's going to go more with that 2-3 mind mesh trapping zone that Rick Pitino made so famous to try to limit this. But how does Louisville and Kentucky go back and forth, the yin and yang a little bit of Kentucky, a little bit more new school, can stretch the floor a little bit with their bigs, whereas Montrezl Harrell, Shiana Awaku, Nick Mayo can shoot the ball a little bit, but are really going to try to really bruise and really control the paint?
Well, you first have to control the orchestrator. So Eric Bledsoe's coming off a masterclass, 20-plus point performance, 5 assists, couple rebounds. He was terrific for La Familia in their most recent win over Heard That. To me, the pressure that Peyton Siva, Russ Smith, and company put on him it's paramount to the game. Because if you let Bledsoe have the ball on a string and do whatever he wants, you're in for a tough night. But you're right, the paint is big time in this matchup. Montrezl Harrell and Willie Cauley-Stein, there's no love lost between those two. I expect things to get physical. You get 6 fouls in these games, they're going to be used. We're going to see at least one of those guys with 4 fouls. Chinanu Onuaku, the Ville is not in this game without Chinanu. I thought he was tremendous against Team DRC in setting the tone, in being physical, in making plays for his teammates, in rebounding the basketball. Onuaku is very important. Onuaku and Harrell, that combination is going to be big in this game to be able to set the tone and be able to be physical in this game. Karam Cantor's been the best player in TBT. No hesitation. He's been sensational. That guy has come to play, has had a long overseas career, spent the last year of his college career at Xavier, was terrific that season. I think it's really important that the Ville, if they're going to have a shot in this game and win this game, they can't let Karam Cantor get going. You're right. The 3-point arc's big. The Ville shot 12 for 24 in their last game. They need that type of shooting here again. They really could use that type of shooting here tonight to win the game. I think that the team that hits 10-plus threes wins this basketball game. I think that one of them will. And this is where the crowd makes a difference. Because I thought the Ville has really fed off the fans in this building. They don't win their second game over sideline cancer without the fans. So they're going to need this crowd here tonight. We know it's going to be electric, but I think that's really important too. But you're right. The battle in the paint, it's going to be crucial because whoever gets more offensive rebounds, if La Familia is getting offensive rebounds and the Harrison brothers, the Harrison brothers might be the X factor of the game. Because if you let them get going, you're in for a tough night. The Ville's got to defend. They got to defend at a high level. And you're right. That 2-3 zone is what they used against the Bellarmine team and allowed them to win the game.
Yeah, that was the big change, really. They were struggling. They got 9 points late in the second quarter. They switched to the zone. They started with the 2-2-1 press. It looked like you were watching 2012, 2013 Louisville there for a little stretch. The big issue is, Russ Smith, Peyton Siva, they still give you a lot in stretches, but they're veterans now is the best way of putting it. Chris Jones is 33 years old. Can they do that for an extended period of time? I think is a very legitimate question. That's where, Chris Dow coming in, playing the game he played in the regional final is really, really huge. And David Johnson bringing a little bit of youth in that also, and more length. Also, you talk about, the Harrison twins, 6'5", 6'6". Again, I feel like I'm talking 2015. Can the quick Louisville guards disrupt the length of Kentucky?
And you're right.
I think that's going to be helpful as well.
David Johnson's important. I mean, David Johnson can be the best player on the floor in this game. He has been really good in TBT. He's hit big time threes. He can drive it. They really getting him on this team, because I think he's going to be back with the Memphis Grizzlies this upcoming season. The other one is Dow. Chris Dow stepped up last game and was terrific for the Ville off the bench. Don't sleep on Dow being able to contribute, but I think David Johnson, he could be the X factor to whether the Ville wins or not.
Yeah, David Johnson also, I think, is the Ville's biggest outside shooting threat of any. Yeah. Him and Nick Mayo are really the two. That's really where I feel like they really missed Kyle Keurig. This year they had him during the run last year, just a guy that, not obviously his game is much more than just being able to shoot threes, but that's been kind of the trademark throughout his college career and his very long overseas career as well. Kind of missing that void, and obviously the additions of Montrezl Harrell, Jones, and David Johnson has been spectacular, but especially when you say, the shooting's going to make the difference, they could use a guy like Kyle Keurig right now for sure. Mm-hmm. But that's how it goes sometimes. So I want to ask you this.
The best month of the year is here, which is why you need to know that we are partnered with BetMGM. We'll be using BetMGM lines for making all of our picks and predictions, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use bonus code FIELD, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's the best part. All you need to do is deposit and bet $10 of your hard-earned money to get it. This is what you have to do to make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using that bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You'll get up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. Most importantly, we have some fun stuff coming up for the rest of the NCAA tournament. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boost, and the thing that I love the most, a nice little parlay boost, as well as a ridiculous array of prop bets for anything that you could possibly imagine betting on. From odds on getting to the Final Four to national championship futures, I'm calling it right now. BetMGM is the king of the prop bet. So go download the BetMGM app. Use that code FIELD and sign up today. And while I've got you, a quick request. The best way to support the Field of 68 content you get for free is to engage with us. Rate and review the pod in any podcast app. Like and share the YouTube videos that you enjoy. Tell your friends about us. It all helps in a world where the algorithm is king. And now, back to the show.
Before we transition to the official UofL team, we've been bringing up the fans a lot. A very touchy subject, I think, with Louisville fans is the whole Blue gets in moniker, because Blue always does get in. It's very typical. Especially during the regular season. Big Blue Nation is insane in a very fun way and all that stuff. What do you think the crowd split is going to be in Freedom Hall tonight?
I think it's going to be 65-35 in favor of Louisville. I do think Louisville fans will have an advantage in this game. Louisville fans have been better than Kentucky fans in this event. Now, there are Kentucky fans that reside in Louisville. We know that. But I still think it'll be more Ville fans than Kentucky. I'm going to go 65-35.
I like it. That's about where I'm thinking. I think it'll be, because when they play in the Yum Center, and Louisville's actually good, not counting this past year, in that it's usually somewhere between like 80-20, 75-25. But I think because you don't have season ticket holders, it's first come, first serve. As you said, there are a crap ton of Kentucky fans in Louisville. There's going to be. It's just, that's how it's going to happen. But I want to ask this. You brought up with the recognition of the Louisville-Kentucky rivalry. This will kind of be our transition here. I think when UofL and UK play during the regular season hurts, obviously Louisville being historically atrocious has hurt it more than anything the last couple of years. But even when the rivalry, when both teams are good, when they play the game hurts the rivalry more than anything else. You think about the most notable regular season matchup in the last decade or so, maybe ever, between the two schools, the 38-0 Kentucky team in 2015 playing against an undefeated fourth-ranked Louisville team in the Yum Center. That game was on ESPN2 at noon, because it was up against the Sugar Bowl. This year, I think they're doing a better job if they're playing it on December 14th, which is kind of become the unofficial, really, really big day in college hoops, because it's after the college football championship or conference championships. It's before all the major bowl games of the CFP. It's the same day as Creighton, Bama, Xavier, Cincy, Tennessee, Illinois, UCLA, Arizona, and A&M Purdue. And Coach Lieberman hates it when I bring this up, but I want your thoughts on this. I think Louisville and Kentucky every year should play that game in late December, early February, like the week between the NFL conference championships and the Super Bowl, because that's when people are paying attention to college basketball more than just, the niche peoples. Why not play one of the biggest games of the year and by far the biggest game in the state during conference season, ramping up for the NCAA tournament when people are really paying attention to college basketball?
Well, one of the issues has been the SEC's had the SEC Big 12 Challenge. So that takes the weekend of league play out of the equation. I do think that the second Saturday of December is a good zone for it because it is between college football. It is fit on a day where it's going to be wild in college basketball. But I do think that it can fit in that pocket. You don't want to put it around bowl games. You don't want to have it go up against bowl games. Put it on the second or third weekend in December. And if you don't do that, how about this one? Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
That'd be incredible.
President's Day. Use a big Monday in the wintertime to give it primetime treatment, make it the event on the sports calendar, and get it there. But I do think, as we go forward, if I'm the SEC and the ACC, I talk to ESPN and say, how do we get this onto ABC? How do we make this the event on broadcast TV? Okay, you're not going to take it ESPN. We'll get into CBS. The game has to be played on a weekend. Could be played on a holiday weekend. It's got to be played on a weekend. It's got to be in a marquee time slot. It's got to get college game day basketball there if it's in January or February. Make it the event. And here's the thing. Pat Kelsey and Mark Pope are Energizer bunnies. These two guys want to see their schools do well. They want to win badly. They're passionate. You got the revival happening right now led by Kelsey. Pope's an untouchable. He's a Kentucky guy. This rivalry is about to have the most energy it's had in years because you got two coaches who want to win like hell.
Yep, and I'll say this too. I mean, yes, the Big 12 SEC Challenge is gone, but Kentucky has shown they played games with the Big 12 SEC Challenge, and even Gonzaga this past year was in late January. Louisville, I know, was a very long time ago, and it was the Conference USA days. It's a little bit different than the ACC now, but they in Indiana had a non-conference series back in the early 2000s where they played in January, February. So it's not completely unheard of there, but I'm with you. And that's where Pat Kelsey, I think, has understood his assignment. And that's something that I stressed a lot about with whoever Louisville is going to hire to be the new coach. Louisville has missed the NCAA tournament, hasn't played an NCAA tournament because they would have been in 2020 if they had a tournament. But it's been 5 years since Louisville's been in the big dance. That hasn't happened since 1958. UofL's had 3 straight losing seasons. That hasn't happened since 1942. So whoever the new coach was going to be, they're stepping into a really, really tough spot, and they know that. And it's not Pat Kelsey's fault that Louisville's been so bad lately. But the fans are so starving for any level of success, they have to understand the sense of urgency of, we're not doing the Kenny Payne, the program's broken, it's going to take 3-4 years thing. You got to get going and have that sense of urgency and win now. And I think Pat Kelsey's done a really, really great job of sensing that and really putting together a roster that can be competitive year one.
Absolutely. And he brought in guys with him. He brought guys with him from Charleston. Rain Smith is a conductor of an offense, plays the game hard, plays the game composed, cool, collected. You bring in James Scott, who's going to help them quite a bit, I think, as well, and they're really high on him. Chucky Hepburn's a winner. He's a winner, Jack. And all I hear right now is that Chucky Hepburn is poised for a big-time season here in Louisville. I think he's going to be tough, hard-nosed, gonna fit right into Kelsey's system. Pat Kelsey wants to play tempo. They want to be top 10 in the country in tempo, and I think they got a chance to be there. Terrence Edwards comes from winning. Mark Byington did a great job with Terrence Edwards and with TJ Bickerstaff and James Madison winning an NCAA tournament game for the first time in several decades this past year. Javon Hadley was a really nice ad coming in from Colorado, right? They have just made conscious ad after ad after ad that makes a lot of sense. I like what they did in the portal. I think that they're going to be a team that's deep, that has a plethora of guard options and a plethora of ability to get tempo. As long as that front court fully comes together, they're going to be a really interesting team and can be an NCAA tournament team.
And that was my next question for you. Do you think they did enough in that front court? Because they missed out on Coleman Hawkins. They missed out on Great Osibor. They've kind of taken, there's many ways to win in the portal. You don't always have to get the Hunter Dickinson type players. We've seen guys, Marcus Damask, Lance Jones, just to name a couple off the top of my head. Dalton Connect, obviously, biggest example of any of them. But there's many, Janai Broom as well. There's many ways you can win in the portal. Did Louisville get the right under the radar guys to where, I'm not saying they need to be first team all league or anything like that, but they can fill that void to where it's not going to be the thing that cripples them throughout the season?
I think they'll be all right. I mean, I really like the addition of Kason Pryor, coming in from USF. I think that he's going to be a really tough player and a guy that can fit in. I'll be curious to see how Ali Khalifa comes in this program and how he performs. I think it's a fair question to ask about this team. But if you do look at Pat Kelsey's squads, Ante Berzovic was his best front court player at Charleston over the last couple of years. But Jack, he wasn't some towering big man. Pat wants to play fast. You don't need to dump it into somebody every possession down. You need 5 guys who can shoot it at all times on the floor in his offense when it's working at its best. I think that they're fine. I think in the ACC, different styles win. In the ACC, if you're doing the same thing as everybody else, do you really want to end up in the same class as Clemson and Wake Forest? Now, you might say, well, we take what Clemson's done the last couple of years. They went on a magical run last season, made the Elite Eight. I get it. I do. But to me, you got to zag as a new coach. Louisville's going to play differently than a lot of these teams in the ACC do, than a lot of teams, period. So I think their front court will be fine. I don't think it's the biggest strength of the team. I also don't think it's some detractor. We're going to find out some this week when they're in the Bahamas, but I do. I think that this is a tournament team, and you're right. In the transfer portal era, where NIL matters most, it's not some 3 to 5 year plan anymore. It's win now, baby. Win now. I think this team will win. I think that they can make the NCAA tournament. I said that they find a way to get there. If they do not get there and they have an 18-win season and they make the NIT, then the momentum propels for you to break through next year and make it back to the big dance and get there and go. But I like the roster. I think it's an NCAA tournament team.
I think it was Dosser and Goodman had this stat on the on Field of 68 After Dark, saying only one high major team the last 3 years has brought back less than 16% of their roster and made the NCAA tournament. That was Iowa State, 15.5% in 21-22. I think Louisville's trip to the Bahamas helps a lot to get this jump start on it, but Louisville did not bring back anyone from last year's roster. And I don't want to slight anyone on last year's roster, but I think that was the right thing to do, to be completely honest. But how can Pat Kelsey mesh everyone together, starting with this Bahamas trip this week, to be able to overcome that set and make the NCAA tournament?
Well, he's already done it by bringing in kids with him from Charleston. I mean, I'm telling you, Rain Smith is a leader. James Scott, they think, is going to fully blossom. And Kobe Rogers. I mean, they brought in kids that are going to help them, that are going to say to other guys, this is what we do. This is how we do it. This is what coach wants. The Bahamas trip helps a ton. I wouldn't worry about that. Do you want to inherit bad players, losing players? I know somebody might say that's harsh. I love those players. I love the kid for who he is. I get that, but this is a business now. We're no longer in college sports. It's a business. You're paying players to play for you. So for me, do you want to, if you are going to take over a restaurant, do you want to inherit the same menu that's made the restaurant crappy for years? Or do you want to do a new menu, put in some new high homes for some lighting, and clean the place? It's time to clean Louisville up. Louisville's got massive potential. But if it's being run like crap, it's not going to be very good. Nothing is. It's going to be run the right way now. And Pat Kelsey, relationships are what Pat does. Relationships are what Pat does. I'm not worried about this team meshing, and I'm not worried that their entire roster's new. It might take some time. Rick Pitino at St. John's didn't make the tournament this past year because it took time. But, Jack, everybody's saying they're going to make it this year. You're on that path, Louisville. I hope you make the tournament. But if you don't panic. You're on the right path. Pat Kelsey knows what it takes to win. He's a smart man. He won at a high level at Charleston. He can win at Louisville because at Louisville he has every resource available to him. They're on the right pathway.
Did my brother actually call you Mike Florio the other night?
He did. Your brother walked up to me and said, "Hey, Mike, what's going on?" And I said, "What?" He goes, "Mike Florio. You're the guy who covers the NFL." Oh, no. Yeah, he thinks I'm Mike Florio.
So my family has insulted you twice now. Then
meanwhile, he should have said, "Hey, Jack."
So I was sitting I have one quick story for you, then I'll let you go. So I was sitting at, of all things, a Cleveland Guardians game a couple of years ago. My dad and I took a trip out there, saw the ballpark. Beautiful, great time. But while we're sitting there, my dad gets a text from my uncle saying, when did Jack start working for Fox Sports and when did he get that suit? And my dad shows me the photo and he says, I didn't know you started working for Fox Sports. And also, where did you get that suit? Because my dad sells suits for a living. And it's a photo of you. And I go, Dad, that's not me. that's John Fanta. That's the great thing. So I apologize for my brother. I apologize for my dad and my uncle. And yes, even when I had the TBT game up at work the other night, a friend of mine joked that how are you two places at once? So yes, I have gotten that. I'm sure you have never gotten that because why the hell would anyone know who I am? But yes, I have gotten that before, and I apologize for it.
It's the biggest compliment in my life to be compared to Jack Grossman and be mentioned in the same breath as him. So you have nothing to apologize for, my friend.
John, I really, really do appreciate the time, man. I'll let you go. Again, you can catch him on the call tonight with David Padgett, Kylie Griffin, 9 o'clock FS1, the Ville, La Familia, Freedom Hall. It's going to be absolutely electric. John, thanks so much, man.
Thank you, Jack. And thanks to all your listeners. Appreciate you having me.